This video is brought to you by Skillshare. Well, it's official. My This Week in Videogames video did not suck, or if it did suck, you guys were polite enough to tell me otherwise. So, the show is here to stay, and in fact, it's also going to be uploaded as a podcast to all major podcast platforms, so if that's how you like to get your news, I got you covered. I'll leave links in the description below, but for now, let's talk about some news. Here's a nice opener to get your blood pumping. Turns out scalpers aren't done completely ruining your day. UK-based retailer Game got a new shipment of PS5s, and a full 2,000 of them were claimed by one scalping outfit alone. The scalpers tweeted, "Over 2,000 checkouts successfully logged for today's game restock on the PS5. Just keeps getting easier every time. Devil emoji face." Just imagine how good it would feel to punch that dude. Like, I don't condone violence, like I'm not a violent person, but you gotta admit, it would feel pretty good to punch that guy. This news follows a general rise in scalping activity for next-gen consoles and GPUs, as manufacturing capacity is squeezed by COVID and demand is driven through the roof because we're all stuck at home and we kind of want to play these things. There's also no law against this stuff in most countries, and it really feels like there should be. Anyway, fuck scalpers. Big news this week if you're a Resident Evil fan, which, you know, I count myself among that. We're gonna have first proper look at Resident Evil Village this week, which is Resident Evil VIII, and it continues the story from the previous game with the same protagonist, Ethan. The star of the show is this big lady. You know, the one from Juice Bigelow. She's very large, and a number of people really like that for reasons that I can't describe without being demonetized. The game is releasing on May 7th on all major platforms, including last-gen consoles, which some found a little surprising as there were expectations that this would be next-gen only. There's also a demo available on the PS5 right now. It's called the Maiden demo, or just Maiden. But it's kind of just a visual showcase, and it's really short, and there's another demo planned for other platforms closer to launch. We also learned about the existence of Reverse, which is a multiplayer shooter using characters from the Resident Evil universe, and it's free with the purchase of Village. This looks terrible, and it appears to be continuing the long and storied tradition of truly awful multiplayer Resident Evil games, of which there are a surprising number. We also learned that they're doing a Division crossover event. Now, this is funny because for years, sections of the Division community have been asking for the developers to include zombies in the game. So instead of doing that, they just added the outfits of Resident Evil characters. Kind of a letdown, not gonna lie. Here's a weird headline. Remember Jack from Mass Effect 2, the clearly not straight character who was for some reason straight? Well, it turns out that she was meant to be pansexual, but then the higher-ups at BioWare and EA got spooked by Fox News, who would run segments saying that video games desensitized you to violence and sex. I mean, this is Jeff Keighley appearing in one of those segments.
But it does beg the question, you know, what it does to kids in terms of how they think about violence and sexuality, because they're, you know, engaged and blowing people away in these.
They don't show women as being valued for anything other than their sexuality. And it's a man in this game deciding how many women he wants to be with.
Yeah, it's completely incorrect. First of all, you can actually play as a man or a woman in the game. Cooper, have you ever played Mass Effect?
No.
Anyway, BioWare made Jack straight because Fox News was telling your parents that Mass Effect would make you gay. Delete Fox News. If you're an Xbox owner who wants to get their hands on some sweet Fall Guys action, then I've got some good news for you. Psych! No, I don't. This all started when Xbox Game Pass's Instagram account replied to a post and said that Fall Guys was coming to Game Pass. And everyone was like... And then the official Fall Guys Twitter account was like, sorry, there's been a mix-up. Fall Guys is not coming to Xbox Game Pass. So that was a pretty fast turnaround. You might call it an Xbox 180. The biggest news of this week was the fate of Vicarious Visions, a longtime studio who most recently had been helping out Bungie with Destiny 2 content, who remastered the Crash Insane trilogy to critical acclaim and absolutely knocked it out of the park with their remake of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. One of the best games released last year, really, and were it not such a one-to-one remake, I probably would have included it in my Game of the Year list. Anyway, this was a great studio who made great games and who had a bright future ahead of them, so of course Activision wound them up and then moved all the staff over to Blizzard. Yes, Vicarious Visions has been absorbed by Blizzard Entertainment like some kind of Borg assimilation. This sucks because why would you waste a perfectly good studio with strong leadership and its own catalog of successes and its own independent future? Why would you push all of that into a lumbering and struggling behemoth like Blizzard? Well, we got the answer soon after that from Jason Schreier of Bloomberg. He revealed that Vicarious Visions were working to support Blizzard on the remake of Diablo 2, which apparently is being called Diablo 2 Resurrected. It's a top-to-bottom remake of the game, not just a graphical remastering, and it was originally being led by Blizzard's internal team known as Team 1. Team 1 were in charge of Warcraft 3 Reforged, the utterly botched, catastrophically bad Warcraft 3 remaster that left fans with a significantly worse game than the original Warcraft 3, which to this day, by the way, has still not been fixed. It's still missing a huge number of features. It's terrible. Team 1 did such a bad job on that Blizzard actually wound up that team, moving staff to other teams and letting some of them go. Vicarious Visions is the Team 1 replacement, which now, as Blizzard staff, will lead the remaking of Diablo 2, one of Blizzard's most celebrated titles. No pressure, guys. No pressure at all. Okay, this is wild. You know how GameStop shares have been absolutely tanking these past few years because everything is moving to digital? Well, some stock market people thought they could make some money on this by shorting the stock, which basically means that they make money when the price of the share goes down. 138% of GameStop's stock was shorted, which is insanity. It means that there's more short positions than there are actual stocks to short. So what happened is that Redditors, people who use Reddit, got wind of this and they've all been spamming Reddit and social media platforms to drive the price of the stock up, and they succeeded. 6 months ago, GameStop shares were at $4 a share. Today, they're worth $65. In 1 day of trading, GameStop's share price rose 80%. Now, I don't really like GameStop, but it's just really satisfying to see Wall Street getting screwed by Reddit. I'm totally down for that. Alright, so what was announced or delayed this week? Well, first up, we got word that the Uncharted movie has been delayed to 2022. In case you hadn't heard, yes, there is an Uncharted movie, and yes, Tom Holland is starring as a young Nathan Drake, which is why Drake's original voice actor, Nolan North, said this.
Thank you, Tom. I could not be more proud of you. You know, someday when someone searches for Nathan Drake on IMDb, and you are the first result, I will only be remarkably bitter.
Anyway, the movie has been delayed to February 11th, 2022, and that's looking realistic because they have actually wrapped up filming. Stronghold's Warlords has been delayed. It was meant to be releasing Jan 26, but has been pushed back 6 weeks to March 9th. I don't know anything about this game other than it's another Strongholds game, and I just remember the box from the original game many years ago. That is my entire knowledge of the Stronghold series. Chernobyl Light is a game I've been keeping an eye on for a while now. It's a survival horror game that kind of feels like an intersection of Stalker and the Metro series and Fallout and, well, Chernobyl, I guess. It was meant to be releasing soon, but the developers have pushed that back to Q2 this year because they're choosing to include extra content that was planned as DLC. So that's good. There's mixed buzz around this title. Some people are pumped, some people are a little concerned. I'm interested, and I will check it out when it hits. Curse of the Dead Gods is an upcoming roguelike that looks a lot like Hades, which is fine since Hades was great. The game has been in early access on PC for a while now and currently sits at 90% very positive rating on Steam. They just announced a 1.0 release date for the 23rd of Feb. This is actually looking pretty cool. And finally, Kingdoms of Amalur is getting a Switch port. This was just announced and it's arriving on March 16th. What came out this week? Well, it was pretty much just Hitman 3, to be honest. It was a very successful launch for IO, who not only celebrated their biggest digital launch ever, but also enjoyed critical acclaim all round. Game Informer scored it a 9 out of 10, saying Agent 47's journey ends on a high note, at least as far as players are concerned. New levels are memorable and cater to the freedom fans have come to expect. GameSpot scored it a 9 as well, saying, "What's good about Hitman? Its level design and the creativity, experimentation, and the exploration that affords is great in Hitman 3. It closes out the trilogy by brilliantly playing off everything that's come before it." The launch wasn't entirely smooth though. Hitman used an external website to carry over your progression from previous games, and predictably, that crashed out hard, meaning that fans couldn't bring their Hitman 2 progress into their Hitman 3 playthrough. This is separate from the issue where if you owned Hitman 1 or 2 on Steam, you couldn't import your progress into the Epic Store since, Hitman 3 was an Epic exclusive. That issue will be fixed in future, so you won't have to buy them again, but yeah, it hasn't been smooth sailing, but at least Hitman 3 is a good game that people seem very satisfied with. So, what's coming out this week? Well, first up we have The Medium. It's an Xbox Series and PC exclusive. I've actually finished this game, but I'm under embargo, so I'm not allowed to tell you what I think of it. That's the way it works. I know it sucks, believe me, trust me, but that's just the rules of the game. What I can tell you though is that it's a narrative-driven horror game that has a unique gameplay twist whereby your character exists in 2 worlds at once and can switch between them almost at will. It's from the team that made Observer. It's out on the 28th and you can get it on Game Pass. I'll have a review up on the embargo, and I can't actually share when the embargo date is either. That's another weird thing about embargoes. I will update the description of this video when the review goes live, so if you're checking this video out after the game is released, you can find a link nice and easy. Next up, we have Yakuza Remastered, which includes Yakuza 3, 4, and 5. They're coming to Xbox and PC for the first time ever, and yeah, it's also coming to Game Pass. Yakuza has seen a huge boost in popularity in the West since Yakuza 0 awakened the dragon, so to speak, and now Xbox fans can complete a big chunk of the series. It's also releasing on the 28th, so big week for Xbox Game Pass. Finally, Journey to the Savage Planet is coming to Steam on the 29th. I reviewed this last year since it was an Epic exclusive back then. It's a short, platformer-style adventure game with a good sense of humor. I recommend it, and I'll leave a link to the review below. Put this on your radar. This week, I got sent a code for King Arthur's Knight's Tale. I had never heard of this before, and I still haven't played it yet because I've been busy, but it looks interesting. It's a tactics-based game in the Arthurian setting. I think we need more games in that setting, and I like tactics-based games, and I think this looks cool. It's hitting early access on PC through Steam on the 26th. Something else you might want to put on your radar is Atomic Heart. Now, this has kind of been in development hell for a while now, with a lot of question marks about whether or not this would actually be released, but apparently it is, because Nvidia just put out a ray tracing trailer for it, and it looks kind of cool. It's like Russian Bioshock, I guess, and that sounds just fine to me. There's no release date on this, it will just hopefully release someday. Here's a segment I thought we'd try out. Sort of free stuff. Each week we can take a look at all the stuff you can get for free or sort of free from stuff like Games with Gold or Twitch Prime or whatever. So what can you get? Well, this week on the Epic Store you can get Galactic Civilizations 3. It's one of those grid-based space strategy game things. Nothing wrong with that. I personally just don't play them. On Twitch Prime, there's always heaps of stuff on there, but one thing I would draw your attention to is Void Bastards, which was recently added, and it's very fun and very funny and very quirky. It's a roguelike. I think you might enjoy it. This month on the PSN, you can get your hands on 3 pretty good games. The headline is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. You know what that is. There's also Greedfall, which I didn't like, but a lot of people liked. It's kind of like Dragon Age, but nowhere near as good. And finally, you can get Maneater. Now, Maneater is actually a good game. My review of it was basically a Last of Us Part 2 shitpost, but the game itself was good, and I unironically recommend it to you. There will be a link to the review in the description below. Xbox Live Gold subscribers get themselves Dead Rising, Little Nightmares, and Breakdown. I have not played any of these games, and Game Pass, lots of cool stuff on Game Pass this week, not least of all Yakuza Remastered, Desperados 3, which got great reviews, The Medium, which we've talked about, Control for PC is coming through Game Pass, that's pretty good, and The Outer Wilds is going to be playable through Xbox xCloud, and while I don't think that's the best way to play it, the most important thing is that you play it, because it's the best fucking game ever. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, to make sure you're leaving with a smile on your face, we have our feel-good story of the week. Get this, Facebook apologizes for banning Fallout 76 roleplayers. Quote, a group of players who call themselves the Free States Militia were first to have some of their members' accounts silenced after initially being banned entirely late last year. Now though, other Fallout 76 players have come forward to share that they've also been restricted from posting in groups or creating new ones. Now obviously this was a misunderstanding at a time when political tensions are running high in the US and actual militia groups are becoming active. Having said that, big tech has recently cracked down on flagrant misinformation, so it's unsurprising that a group of people who fervently believe that Fallout 76 is a good game are banned from social media. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the week in video games. If you enjoyed yourself, please do me a solid and drop a like on the video, leave a comment to make the algorithm gods happy, share it on Twitter or Facebook because the algorithm loves that. And if you want more news, don't forget to check out Layman Gaming. Sam and I are still doing stuff together in the background, and we'll continue to do stuff together on the Red Couch from time to time, but he's doing the deep dive news as it breaks, so if you want up-to-date hot takes, then Layman is the place to go. I'll leave a link in the description to that. And oh my god, I totally forgot about the podcast. Again, don't forget the podcast links. Man, that's a lot of shout outs to win an episode on. How about one more for the road? Before we go, this video is brought to you by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes for creative and curious people on topics including illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, and more. On Skillshare, millions of members come together to find inspiration and take the next step in their creative journey. Well, you might think, that's all well and good, but that's not something I need, right? Well, maybe, but maybe you do and you just don't know it. For example, maybe you want to have a career in content creation, and maybe you want to do that around the world of video games, but you don't know where to begin. Skillshare is the perfect place to start. You might want to check out this course that teaches you the fundamentals of how YouTube works. Maybe then you want to think about how to create viral content. When it's time to shoot and edit your videos, Skillshare has stuff for that too. Thumbnails matter, and you probably want to learn how to use Photoshop. Skillshare can take care of that as well. And if you already know how to do all of this stuff and you're just looking for some more discipline or structure to make more content more often, there's plenty of courses to help with that as well. Skillshare's courses are put together by experts in their fields, and taking part in them allows you to connect with those creators and other students. You get to build a community around the thing that you're passionate about, supercharging your ambition and creativity. To get started, click the link in the description below, and as an added bonus, the first 1,000 people that click the link get 2 months of Skillshare Premium free. Thanks Skillshare for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down so I know to do better for next time. If you enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing, and if you really enjoyed yourself, maybe consider hitting that notification bell so you never miss a video. You can see my patrons here on the left. They're awesome. They're amazing. If you want to join them, check out my Patreon page. Thank you again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.